Mm.
What's up, beautiful people? It's Coach Mike of P and Z Life Coaching, and I'm excited about this live, this impactful conversation. I'm starting a new segment or show on my YouTube channel called Impactful Conversations. And this first one, it just so happened that it was perfect timing for me to start this, and we're doing it live. So thank you to everybody that's tuning in. Go ahead and share this out. Share this out if you have a heart for the youth at all. If you're a coach, mentor, teacher, friend, auntie, uncle, mom, dad, share this out because I'm sure it's going to be some gems that are shared tonight. I'm so excited about this conversation. Just a few shout outs. At any time, y'all feel free to post comments or different questions. We'll get to them as we go. And then, of course, we'll have some time at the end where we do some question and answer if you have any questions. But I just want to give a shout out to my fraternity brother, who made this connection with me and our guest tonight. That was just awesome. So I really appreciate that. And member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. And then also I'll let Coach, when he comes up, introduce himself, and another Greek man that's doing some awesome things with the youth. So thank you all for tuning in. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guest for this evening's conversation. Coach, what's up?
What's happening, man? Yo, Mike,
How you
man,
doing?
thanks for having me, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
For sure, man. Go ahead and tell the people who you are. Let's give a little intro, who you are, and what you have going on.
Man, for those of you that don't know, man, my name is Preston Brown, senior from Camden, New Jersey. Uh, you know, I am an educator. I am a football coach. I am a leader of young people. And, I'm in constant pursuit of, bettering myself, my family, and uplifting the young people around me. So, I appreciate, you and your frat brother for us connecting based off of a previous piece that was done, which was a small snippet in my world and what I have going on in terms of the things that we've been able to do from a coaching aspect and, helping young people in the community. And, we're just trying to continue to grow that and push the message of, peace and positivity, and prosperity, all that, all the three P's.
Love it. I love it, man. And when I saw that, and we'll talk about it a little more, but when I saw that piece that you did that was on NFL Films, man, I was like, man, it's amazing. Just your approach. First of all, the messaging. I was like, I'm feeling bro's shirts that he got on, his connection with the youth, the young men, because it's something about that connection of a man being there. And of course, we'll talk about that more too, with how you got into the coaching and everything. But I just think it's awesome, man, what you're doing, and that positivity. People will see my videos or different things I do, and they can feel that energy and that vibe, so to speak. So, like-minded people like that, man, it's always great to connect. And like you said, just, being positive impact to the youth in whatever way we can, man. And I think that's awesome. I was telling you a little bit before we started that I'm a part of a organization here. I do youth coaching and speaking, but I'm a part of an organization locally in Birmingham, Youth Talk United. So again, any way we can give back to that next generation, man, just to share a little bit of where we've been and what we can do, man, I think is always awesome, man.
100%,
so,
man.
Yeah, for sure. So, Coach, man, first of all, also I gave a shout out to my fraternity, but shout out to your fraternity as well, Omega Psi Phi fraternity.
Definitely, and one of my closest brothers in the fraternity. I got to give a shout out to my man Brandon Bather. He works for NFL Films, and he's from Nashville, Tennessee. Man, shout out to Roadside, Tennessee State. Great chapter. He was the one that really was pushing NFL Films for 3 or 4 years, really to try to get the messaging out. Being an outsider to Camden, New Jersey, and seeing the things we had to endure as a program, and the things that we're trying to accomplish and what we did accomplish with a lot of the young men, even the young women who played on our team, and the things we're able to do in many different layers and arenas with, uh, minimum resources in a lot of aspects, spend a lot of money out of our pocket, which is a part of the job, right? And so, I definitely got to give a shout out to Brandon, man. He's always been a loyal person from day one. He's a producer with NFL Films. He does amazing work. And, we were filming a lot of the footage that you saw in the documentary, like from earlier years that they actually used. And, we just wanted to capture everything that we were doing. So he was a big reason why that, they found out even small snippets of what was happening. So, shout out to him. And, shout out to the whole NFL Films production team that spent time during COVID to follow us around and put that piece together, which is like over 1 million views
Right.
on Facebook and YouTube and so many different layers. The people that reached out from all over the world that's been able to see it. So it's definitely putting some positivity on what we do in a small city like Camden, New Jersey.
Right.
You alluded to energy, and one thing I talk to the kids about too, because I was always big into sciences, is that first law of thermodynamics says energy is neither created nor destroyed; it's transferred from one party to the next. So when we have negative energy goes, and people do negative things. But if you can remain positive despite your circumstances, and you can overcome some things, the story becomes that much greater, and the appreciation is even greater after that. So we try to be as positive as possible in all things that we do.
I love it. I love it. And for anybody who has not had the opportunity or the privilege to check out that short, like you say, I know it's just a compact, short version of everything in that story, man. But on NFL Films, check it out. I shared it just a little while ago today. Shared a couple of times in the last couple of weeks since we connected. But check that out, man. If you just want to be inspired to do more, because even outside of the youth, just giving back to the community, that's one way to do it, man. And like you said, that energy is huge, man. And I think that's why I just really, your message and what you do resonated with me so so quick and so strong, that energy, man. So it's always a good thing. So we'll definitely come back to kind of that and some of the things that came out in that production with NFL Films. But for everybody watching, man, let's go back and let's kind of take it on that journey. So just take a moment and tell us what it was like being young Preston Brown growing up in Camden, New Jersey, man. Talk about your youth for a little bit.
Oh man, I'm probably the tale of multiple stories. I said it. People that know me, I'm an East Camden kid. If you know anything about Camden, we're a proud group of people. We represent our portion of town where we from, outside of Camden. We just one city. So I'm from the East Camden section, Camden, New Jersey. My grandmother, she was a Haitian immigrant who was a crossing guard. So, I lived in probably every part of East Camden. Most people know me from my Stockton Station days, old little housing project. And the way back, they tore it down and made a football field, baseball and basketball area. I grew up right off of Thorndike and Rand Street. So, I've been around. I was the kid that I got really good grades, but I was always like ready to fight. I was angry about a lot of things, about my upbringing, about my environment. Just because, it was overcrowded, it was compacted. I seen a lot of, negative things. And, when you see negative things, you kind of gravitate to it at times until you pull it into the right direction. So sports really saved my life. And then connecting with some great people along the way, right? When I was 9 years old, I was in an all-male class with a guy by the name of Ron Johnson. He's Dr. Ron Johnson now. I give him a lot of credit because, most of the kids that came through his all-boys class when we were in the fourth grade, many of us are extremely successful in life right now. And we learned a lot of life lessons during those times. His presentation of manhood was very exemplary, and to this day, like it's something that I always model behind. I had great families who poured into me, like Coach Rob Davis when I was a young kid. Traveling by bike to get to play youth football. He would give me a ride to practice for 2 years. You saw that on a documentary. He's been a part of my life ever since. The Fisher family, the Sloanell family, like many of these families that poured in so much positive energy towards me, uh, gave me an opportunity. Now I'm one of 6 kids, right, and we all live 6 different realities in the same household most of our lives. And, I appreciate every one of my siblings. My youngest is deceased, rest in peace. My parents are deceased, rest in peace to them as well in heaven. And all the things that I learned, like just growing up, in the trenches, right? Like I really grew up in the trenches, evictions, living with friends, moving from place to place. But those external people in my life allowed me to stay steadfast and humble on my approach. And, I had no idea that I was going to get a scholarship to go to college and play football, but I knew I was going to go to college. And, it just turned out, there's so many things that happened along the way. I went off to boot camp for several months. I was like 12 years old. We didn't have a phone at home, so I didn't get any phone calls, no letters, nothing like that. And when I came home from that, that's when I found football. I was literally playing football up and down Thorndike Street. And the dude, I won't say his name, he was a corner boy at the time. He said, "Oh, listen, man, you got some skills. A couple of y'all got skills." He took about 3 or 4 of us, out there, what's called PYAA, to do football. And I was the only one that really stuck it out. And, I give him credit for that. And in the midst of this, he used to take me to practice all the time. And then he got arrested. When he got arrested, I had to steal a bike to be able to get to practice. And then I called a flat one day in the rain. And, my boy, who was my quarterback at the time, Andre Sloanell, his mom and dad seen me at the gas station trying to fix a flat in the pouring down rain. So practice had got canceled, but I didn't have a phone to know. So I just thought, like, I'm just gonna go to practice. And so I'm fixing my bike in the rain, trying to fix the flat, and they asked to give me a ride. And I said no. They pulled off, and then they turned back around and picked me up. And I told them, I needed to go to my aunt's house in Camden because the dude who signed me up told me not to tell anybody that you lived in Camden or they was going to kick you off the team. And so at that time, we didn't really have lights in the house. So we was running a lamp to the neighbor's house to get electricity. So when they pulled up to the house, I just jumped out and grabbed the bike and went upstairs. I didn't even say bye because I didn't want them to ask me any questions. And then the next day when we went to practice is when Coach Rob Davis, he like pulled me to the side. Well, he called me out in front of everybody and said he needed to talk to me. So I was like, man, they figured it out. They about to kick me off the team. Like, damn, like I don't even know what to do. I really like doing this football thing, but it's about to be over for me. Now, all the friends I used to hang with at that time, they all had been arrested. They were all at the juvenile detention center at this time. Like all the little dudes I used to hang with at the time, running up and down Thorndike, Grand Ave, Utah, 27th Street. The dudes that I hang with the most, they always arrested at this time. And football was my saving grace. So he pulled me to the side. I had tears in my eyes. And then he told me that he lived in Camden, that he knew my dad, that they went to high school together. He knew all along, but, he just was waiting for the right moment to say it to me. And, I appreciate Coach Rob, like, been a father figure since I know him 11, 12 years old. He coached on the staff with me now. He coached me in football. He coached me in basketball in high school. amazing dude, absolute wonderful guy, you know, stand up guy in every level. When I played college ball, he came to the games there. He came to visit, sent packages, like all those different things, man. So um, it was his love that and his, you know, pushing me through to keep me going to practice for 2 years. That, you know, that's how I was able to keep going with that part. And again, Dr. Ron Johnson, he was a part of my life since 9 years old. In every phase, when I went to middle school, high school, he always checked on me. He had me and all my brothers had his class, and then you know, he even drove me to college. Right, his wife is from New Orleans. Like he planned this summer trip to take me to school. Like my
Wow.
when I was a freshman, like when I left high school. You know what I mean? So a lot of people, like most people, won't even do that, right? And so, you know, again, it's just those things, like those kind of, like, God put a lot of people in place, like to help me, like along the way. You know, like my high school head football coach, Mike McBride, other, like there's so many people that I can name. You know, I don't want to disappoint anybody by not saying their name. So throughout this whole time, you know, I may bring up names along the way, but a lot of these people had like real hands on with like helping me in many different ways.
Yeah, that's what's up, bro. And that's why I wanted to kind of go back to that young Preston, right? Because I think a lot of times that's another thing with the youth. They feel that well, this coach or this person, this speaker, they never been through what I've been through. So much of what you were saying resonated with me. You're one of six. Now, technically, now officially, I'm one of 11. But one of my
Ooh.
middle sisters, yeah, one of my middle sisters died when she was a baby. I grew up saying one of 10. But the thing is, one of 10, you were saying your youngest is deceased, my oldest is deceased, and then both my parents are deceased. So a lot of those things, and even watching a documentary, man, you talked about coach and his impact and being on your staff. So much of that, man, resonated with me because everybody got that coach that grills out, and
Yeah,
always there. It's just like you almost call them pops or unk, they're
yeah,
just there. And so I think a lot of times people hearing the stories, they'll see Preston Brown and college football, professional football. Well, he's a coach now, and they don't know the backstory. You know what I'm saying? What people have been through, and so I think that's huge. Not just with the youth or with people, but connecting with people on any level. Your story is what connects, and so
yeah.
that's why I wanted to definitely do that, man. So in the documentary, you talked about how you was that young person that would want to fight. Something that stood out to me, man. You said, and I'm sure for any teenagers, young people that's watching this, and even teachers and coaches, you talked about that one teacher that told you that you were going to either be dead or in jail by the time you're
Hmm.
18, man. Kind of talk about that, and how that impacted you moving through, the rest of school and even in college, in your college years, and just kind of moving through life. How did that impact you?
Um, well, I had spent my fourth grade and fifth grade years in all male classes with two male teachers. I had a black male in fourth grade, and in fifth grade, I had a white male, right? And so, what I know now as trying to think of the the term that they use, it's going to come to me in a minute. But a white male in the inner city teaching like all black boys in the in the fifth grade classroom, and we were going through a lot of changes, puberty, transformation. Like I was 10 years old in the fifth grade, and we had kids in that school who were over age eighth graders that were 15 and 16. So you talking about a 5 and 6 year gap. So my first year at East Camden Middle, the eighth graders and the fifth graders ate lunch together. And I'm like, man, like they look so much older, like so much bigger, like so much more mature. And we just really didn't know how to handle it. And I went from a complete hands-on guy, Mr. Johnson in fourth grade, that had great nurturing. He taught us how to shine shoes. He taught you how to tie a tie. You know, he talked about etiquette, like things that they don't teach, right? Or it's not a part of the curriculum. We went to Mr. Kutcher's class in fifth grade, and it was just, you either know the material or you don't. And if you didn't know it, kids acted out, right? What do boys do? They slap box, they wrestle, right? We want to go to the schoolyard, we want to play handball, we want to play freeze tag. We're aggressive. You know what I mean? Especially coming from the environments that we came from. It's not a negative thing, but if you don't understand the culture and how it goes, then you know people will look down upon that. So now here I am, the kid that got the highest average in fifth grade of any student. I go into sixth grade, they put me in the in what they call the honors class, right? I was maybe, it was maybe two boys in that class, right? One of the kids was in the same fourth and fifth grade class with me too, an Asian kid. We Hung Nugent was his name. That's my man, right? So Miss Marino's sixth grade class, I remember her. One of the initial things in her class was she wanted everybody to get all these composition notebooks. We had to get like 6 of them for each subject. They had to be different colors though. Each one had to be color coded. So now my mom, she had 6 kids. All of us were school age. So everybody was in school. And she was like, listen, I'm not buying you 6 composition notebooks. I can't afford it. I got to get everything for all of y'all. Like, you can get 2. So the teacher was giving me negative points for not having all 6 composition notebooks. So she kept asking me. One day I just wasn't having, like I just wasn't feeling it, right? I, I think, you know, they wasn't giving free breakfast like that at middle school. So I might not have had nothing to eat. All I know is I remember her saying like, you know, why don't you have your composition notebooks? Like, I'm gonna call home. And I was like, well, I don't have a phone, so go ahead and call. And she kept like nagging me on. And then I was like, look, I'm gonna just tell you what my mom said. She can't afford the shit. Like, I don't know why you keep asking me. Like, I'm using loose leaf paper. Like, I'm not failing. I'm getting 100% on everything. Like, why are you riding me this hard? And she just told me like, oh, with that kind of attitude, you'd be dead or in jail before you're 18. And I just went livid. I like kicked the desk over. Like, I threw a book across the room, not at her, like just in anger. They called the security. They put handcuffs on me. They took me to the principal's office, Miss Kenny. They told me I was like this menace to society, like all this crazy stuff. Now I'm the same kid that got the highest average in sixth grade now. All my standardized tests is at the 99 percentile. I get straight A's on all the work that they give me. And they just, that one, you know, little incident. And ever since, like really since that moment, every time I turned a new age, I never forgot what she said. I never seen her again since I left middle school. But, you know, I always be like, you know, Miss Marino, shout out to you. You know, I made it past this
Right.
age. I made it past that age. Not in shade or anything like that, but that was really a driving motivation for me, like moving forward. You know, I had some other hurdles along the way, but I always kept that in the back of my mind. Every time I went somewhere, every time I did something. Uh, and one of the other things, like when I went to Tulane, like all my boys would say, like, hey, why you always carrying a book bag around? Like, why you always standing up in the lecture hall saying your name and where you from? Like, we all know that. But again, people like coming from Camden, I would always stand up in the lecture hall, say my full name and where I was from, because it's like a representation thing. And people they didn't expect a kid from Camden to perform that well academically down there. I mean, everybody that been to Tulane, you know, like I knew every black person that went to school there during my time. Like I could identify them by first and last name. Like we all was like one small family. And again, I appreciated that environment, But I definitely always stood up and let people know exactly who I was and where I was from, and that like I'm here. I deserve to be here. Like I earned the right to be here, and I'm always prove that. And whoever didn't like it, oh well.
Yeah, I love that, man, and that, that driving force of just thinking about that teacher and giving you that message at such a young age. It's a thing that I have my 4Ks where I tell people keep going, keep grinding, keep showing, keep shining. And I say the first two are for you, right? Is that you gotta go, you gotta grind when you just don't feel like it, or you want to be successful. So that those first two, the first two K's are for you. Keep going, keep grinding. But the last two, keep showing, keep shining. That's for the haters. That's for that teacher that told you you wasn't gonna be anything. That's for that
Hmm.
person who told you, you can't do that. Why are you trying to do this? Or questioning, why you got on a book bag. It's that. Hey, I'm gonna keep showing you. I'm gonna keep shining, and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna make out of this. And so I think that's important. And again, it's just certain things that stick with you over the course of your life that can be I think the biggest thing I want for people is to turn those negative things into that driving force. We talked about energy earlier, right?
Hmm.
Neither create it nor destroy it. So it's going to be there. It's what are you going to do with it? How are you going to let it fuel you? And so I love that. So you talked about, going to college now and being at Tulane, and so with football really being a lifesaver for you. Talk about those kind of years going through college and then your years playing professionally, and then how you kind of ended up your journey ended you up to high school, coaching high school football.
Yeah, I mean, so all right, I take it back just a little bit. So like my older brother, he was a high school All American at football. He went to the University of North Carolina. He was a 4-year starter. He had like 50 scholarship offers to play football. Like I myself, I graduated number two in my class. Right, I had a football scholarships, basketball, track, the whole 9 yards. Um, I chose Tulane because a lot of people was trying to influence my decision in the school that I should go to based upon what they wanted for me. And I just told myself, I'm gonna go to a school that I truly want to go to, where I don't care what nobody else think. Right? I passed up tons of like big time schools like to go there, and that journey wasn't an easy one, but it's one that I can live with for the rest of my life. Being a high school All American, going to unfamiliar territory, almost 2,000 miles away. Uh, I made it, and everybody that I played with, they know they respected me. They respect me to this day. I went from not playing for 2 years to the team captain for 2 years, and it's nothing but hard work that came into all of that. And my thing was always, you know, that little bit of extra, right? The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little bit of extra, and that's what it's going to require at all times, like just to go above and beyond, right? If there's a thing that needs to be done, I don't think like you don't need a nugget to do that. Like you should just go ahead and do it. But if you're just following your regular schedule and routine and you just doing it, to me, that's not really hard work. Like you just going about the regular schedule. Like going above and beyond to put yourself in a position that you're gonna always exceed the whatever the requirements are. Like that's when hard work really starts. And I had to learn that along the journey. I graduated high school at 17, went to college, and I had a lot to learn, like just being individual, being on my own. I didn't even have a cell phone my first semester in college. I was still using calling cards. This is 2003. You know what I mean? A lot of kids don't even know how to use a calling card. They can't use a
Hmm.
pager, right? I was using the dorm phone with a calling card to call people. Like my first, like part of my half of my first semester, until I got my low refund check, and I was 18 now, so I could go and get a cell phone in my name. That like that's a real story. Like that's true. Like in 100%. And I had to learn a lot of those different things about growing up, when in all actuality 18 don't make you a grown-up, it don't make you an adult. And because my mom had so many other duties and responsibilities to handle, like she was arrested for over half of my senior year in high school. So when she came home, it was during basketball season. She had got arrested in the summer before the football season even started. So I was facilitating that as a 17-year-old, trying to support my siblings. And then my brother had got shot. One of my brothers had got shot during that time. And, then he was on the run because my mom couldn't go to court with him as a juvenile. So they had a bench warrant out for him. So they ended up arresting him. And then at that point, I don't think I seen him again for maybe 5 years, 5.5 years. This was like 15 and a half, turning 16. I don't think I seen him again till he was like 22, 23. And I had to visit him upstate. And then I was out of college for a year. Then he came. Then he came home after doing like 7.5 years. So I was navigating through that. I went to a couple of mini camps, training camps. I did 2 years in the UFL. I would hop on a Greyhound. I get in the car. They had the UNGL league that came out. I got drafted to do that. Toronto Argonauts was doing a big thing, and they had like a big workout in Connecticut. I did that. I got signed. UFL. I drove down to Birmingham when they were trying to bring the USFL field back. I got signed by the old Birmingham Stallions. Like I was all over the place trying to make it happen. And I chased that dream for about 5 years, about 5.5 years. Right when I was about 26, I graduated at 21. I was walking down the aisle to graduation. Dick Geron, the head coach of the Buffalo Bills at that time. I had my daughter in my hand. My wife, she was walking with me. I got the call. I was walking to get my degree. And I stopped. And he said, "Do you still have an interest in playing football?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "All right, you need to be in Buffalo by 9 p.m. tonight." I'm walking down the aisle for graduation. And he said, "You need to be in Buffalo by 9 p.m. He put me on the phone with one of their personnel directors. They sent me my flight information. I walked down the aisle, got my diploma, had to kiss them on the cheek. I went, packed one book bag and a duffel bag. I was off to the airport. And they had planned, I ain't had no money like that at that time. They had planned to be in New Orleans with me for a week. They spent the whole time there. And shout out to the bros, right? My line brothers, they took them around in the city, made sure that they was good. And I didn't see them again until the fall. This was May 19th, 2007. I don't think I seen them again until October.
Wow. So that point where you talked about that 5 years, right, of kind of, chasing that dream, you talked about in the documentary of the point where, it kind of led you back to Camden. So what was that turning point that you got in your head that, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna be a high school football coach, after going through college, being a football player, chasing these dreams, getting a call when you're walking across the stage. So what was that turning point where it was like, you know what, I'm about to be a high school football coach? What was that changing moment for you?
I had no ambition to be a high school coach, zero. But I remember sitting in the room with my man Christian Hopkins, who was my roommate at the time in the UFL. We had just finished playing like week 3, week 4. I was listening to Blueprint 3. It was fresh out, you know what I'm saying? I was listening to So Ambitious. And then I got a call on the phone. So one of my high school coaches, Kevin Ross, he was the defensive back coach on that team, coach for the Bucks right now. Him and Wes Chandler called me down. They said, bring your playbook, whatever. I'm like, damn, like what's going on? Like, I'm thinking maybe I'm being traded to another team. I'm trying to be real optimistic, but I already knew what it was. The NFL had just finished their last round of cuts, and I had seen it hit the thing where guys from other teams was getting released, and they were signing dudes from the NFL because they needed to sell tickets in the UFL. So Wes was like, Wes Chandler, the Hall of Famer, he was my coach. He was like, look, man, we got to let you go. We're going to give you your full pay, but we got to sell some tickets. And, I'm like, look, nah, like, what? Something else got to change. Like, I need to stay. Like, I was saying, he's like, no, it don't work like that. I said, well, listen, man, do I have what it takes to be a professional at this position? Like, if you can stamp it and tell me that in my face, you in the Hall of Fame at this position, then I could rest easy on the fact that a Hall of Fame wide receiver told me that I had what it takes to be a professional wide receiver. And then he said to me, he's like, but I don't know that if this is God's greatest calling for you. He's like, this offense is a very difficult one, and many guys struggle with it. You pick this thing up so fast, and you're teaching guys different things about this. You're like almost like a second coach on the field. He's like, yo, maybe you should go back home and just teach some wide receivers what I taught you, man. It'd probably be pretty good for you. And so the dude that I trained with in New Orleans, Wyatt Harris, he ran a company called Sonic Boom. I said, yo, man, send me the training program, man. Like, well, I'm just going to train some wideouts back at the crib. So I should just work out at the field. And I went back to Wilson at the time, just trying to help out, trying to stay in shape, and they wouldn't let me. The old athletic director at that time, Mr. Hamilton, he wouldn't let me. I was working out on the field one day, me and my brother, and he called the cops on me. Like, you guys can't be out here working out. And I'm like, well, we alumni. Guys been doing this for years. And, he told me he said, look, man, you guys can't be out here. He went into the school. Mr. Richards was the principal at the time. He called the school detail officer to come outside. And it was like, wait, you want us to kick them guys off? They're like, nah. So then he called 911 to kick us off the field. This is a true story.
Okay, so hold on, bro. Wait, because see this one in the documentary, so I'm like, okay, now this gets good.
It should have been.
Now, it was what year? How long was that before you actually wound up being the coach?
Like 5 years. Like
5 years.
So this was right around like 2010, 2011 almost. And so this probably was the 2010-2011 school year. And the other interesting thing is, like, we got kicked off the field. So I used to go to Cooper River, and then I used to start working out over at Camden High. Camden High had an open field, so I would go there 5 in the morning. Then I'll come back at 5 in the evening. I was still training, so I would see kids, and they asked if they could work out with me. I'm like, cool, you know what I mean? And then I would see kids doing things incorrectly, like at the receiver position and things like that. So I found myself correcting them, giving them little nuggets, and then I would just go watch them like play, and they would perform so much better, right? And so how I got my foot into coaching is that the coach at the time who wouldn't let me help out at Wilson, he ended up leaving, and then the job was open. So I was like, I'm gonna apply for the job. But the AD at the time was like, nah, don't apply for the job. You'll be wasting your time. Right? You're not good for kids right now. Right? And I was like, wait, why can't I apply for the job? Like, I said, all right, cool. So Coach Savage at Camden High, he was a high school coach of mine. He gave me an opportunity to be a coach. He was like, look, if you don't get the Wilson job, I want to bring you and your brother over to coach with me at Camden High. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'll do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, cool, no problem. And I had already was training a couple of kids, just trying to show them the ropes and do their thing. Just doing exactly what I seen happen for me, like with the training on the professional side. But I wasn't training kids to be good in high school. I was training them to be professionals the way it was done for me. Like, yo, no, we got to go for the gusto right now. Like, I don't believe in mediocrity. Like, I don't believe in this level and this layer. Like, I'm trying to propel cats for the highest potential, highest level with that kind of teaching and development so that when you get there, it's no surprise to you. Like, you'll already be ready. There's no surprise. It's the mindset piece, right? You know, you invest in them mentally and being the absolute best. And like that's what West did for me. Like that's what, the training that I was exposed to, that's what it was done for me. Um, and so I coached receivers my first year at Canton High. We had two kids that year have double digit touchdowns, Champ, Quay, and the quarterback, he did really good that year. And all the things that I had learned, like in college and pro, like I just start giving them nuggets to kids. And I spent some time as a tight end, so I started working with the offensive line some. But I always paid attention. In college, I would go sit in different position meetings with coaches when I didn't have class and just talk to them about football. Like, yo, why you teach that? Like, tell me why you teach that. I would sit with the D line coach. Like, tell me what that technique is supposed to do, right? I didn't know that it was going to help me 15 years later when it came to coaching. So I went from the receiver coach to the offensive coordinator. After that second year of calling plays at Kent High, I spent 3 years there. The Wilson job became open. I applied and I got hired.
Nice. So that it's interesting. I love what you said about how you would go with different position coaches, and it's pretty much you were a student, not only an athlete but a student of the game. And so I
Always.
think that's huge. And with the youth, no matter what sport you're playing, because sports a lot of times is a way out for our youth, and that's great, but you got to put in that work, you know what I'm saying, and like really being a student of what you want to do, especially when it's that thing of you thinking about it like this is my ticket, this is my way out. So I love how you said that you would go and ask questions as to why you're doing that, why are you coaching that way, because it helps you learn something. So now, you know, being back at Wilson now and having that coach position and the success that you've had there, again, I encourage people to watch the documentary because it's just amazing what's going on. And even seeing the youth that they had, man, talk about you and talk about the school. I was like, man, you could tell they're bought in. And that's one of the things where it's not, you can't act that light in those youth eyes that were on that documentary. So that's awesome. So in now turning around to where you got a squad winning out here, what was one of the biggest challenges that you faced in the years you've been there and mentoring and coaching the youth, especially being back in Camden now? What was some of the challenges that you face?
Uh, you know, so what people see is the end product, right? Or part of it, right? But the success has been a coalition of people. It's been a coalition of hard work. It's been many hours consumed, planning 2, 3 in the morning, right? Putting the game plan together, right? Revamping it, like watching the film over and over again. Being cussed out by my wife, like putting too much time in, right? It's been a cohort of families and friends and people and like that poured into, you know, like just being committed, right? Commitment is a tough ass thing, especially when there's so many inconsistencies in the rest of your life. So when I first took the job, I get shout out to that senior class that I had, because that senior class that I took on my first year, they went 0-10 as freshmen. They had only won 6 games in 3 years combined, right? So Chris Henderson, Adrian Clark, um, Jaheim Bullard, um, rest in peace, Jameer Bullard, Jamad Cato, uh, Aaron Lee, just to name of just to name a few, Big Terrence, like that group of kids right there, they'll always have a special place in my heart, just like every other kid. But I told them that you will never know what it feels like to be a loser ever again in any aspect of your life. Some guys quit along the way, other guys got better, and we ended up making the playoffs that year. And so we won 6 games, and we were 6-2 in the regular season, and we made the playoffs. The team had only won 6 combined games in the 3 years before that. And so, but that took a lot of hard work. But I told them, this is not the goal. The goal is not to make it to the playoffs. The goal is not to be in the championship game. The goal is to be the best to ever do it. I tell kids all the time, I do not want to coach you if you have no aspirations on being the best ever. Like when they close the chapter of your book, when you play for me and for us, your name will be in the conversation of the best to ever do it. Or you can't play for us. It's just that simple. And I don't care who they are, right? Every year we're gonna grow somebody up, we're gonna nurture them up, and they're gonna be in the conversation of some of the best to ever do it in our area and in the nation. And I believe that, and we stick to that. And we will continue to do that. I don't care who they are, what they look like, where they come from. If you show up to play for Tiger Nation under me and the guys that we got around, you better want to be the best ever. And that's what I said to them. And that's the passion that we pour into those guys over and over again without hesitation. And those kids know it.
Yeah, I love that too, and like I've said before, you can feel it, man, and just in seeing the response and how they carry themselves in interviews and everything, you can tell that they feel that it resonates with them. So I talked about that challenge, and you mentioned that commitment. I think that's huge, man, because I always say one of the best things you can do for yourself in any aspect or any goal you got is commit to consistency. So that commitment comes first.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, what's your biggest joy in coaching and mentoring? And you kind of talked about just really flipping a program around that had seen so much loss, and now being a program that you have now. What are some of the other things outside of that of the joys of coaching and mentoring and doing what you do with the youth?
I mean, some of the biggest joys is seeing kids go from like a 2.3 GPA to graduating in the top 10, right? I seen a kid who didn't want to do football as a freshman. He was at a technical school. He had a 1.6 GPA. Graduate high school with a 3.8 cumulative GPA, and it was in the top 6 of his class. And
Wow.
now he's off to college on a full scholarship. Like, I seen the grind, I seen the hard work, and he became an All-American in football. Like, those are the joys that nobody can ever take away from me, right? The rings, great. Winning championships, great, right? Signing day is always an awesome thing, right? But it's those little ticks along the clock that I see kids transform from, right? I see a kid transforming from, having a really difficult attitude and people misunderstanding them to standing up to, accept the captain's award at a banquet, and delivering a speech, at the baccalaureate or graduation, or a kid that's misunderstood, graduate high school with a 4.0 and enter college early, and continue to have a 4.0. Like, these are the joys that will live on forever. seeing one of my guys, you know, who's grown now, got a great working job, FaceTime me when his child was born in the hospital, right? You could call anybody in your family, anybody, right? But 10 minutes after your baby's born, you FaceTime me to to show me like how proud you are to be a dad, right? Like that means a lot. And these are the important things of building community, right? Uh, a good friend of mine, a Tiger alum, LeVar Edwards, he run Camden Clock Chasers. He had a 5K run that he was doing um, a couple years back throughout East Camden. You know, and we weren't in the cross country, but he said, "Listen, man, you know, we're trying to get some more participants." I said, "Don't even worry about it. We all gonna sign up. Me, all the kids, the coaches, and my son was 3 at the time. We ran the whole 5K because we trying to bridge the community together, and that's how communities thrive, right? That's what makes people want to be successful and bring success back. You know, when I was coming up, it was do as great as you can be, leave, and never come back. But you lose your bloodline, you use your lifeline in the communities like that, and that's how gentrification happens, and that's how people get pushed out, and you know they start bringing new blood and new lifelines in. And if you don't want it to happen, right, you need you need quality to come back and produce more quality.
I love that. I love that, man. And like you said, that's it's definitely like that gateway. It's you opening the gates and welcoming it in when you're not doing that. So, 2020 we know was a hell of a year for us all, right, with the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. So, what was some of the challenges that you faced and the way your approach and your connection with the youth? Because again, I talked about being a part of a organization, and of course, everything just changed with the pandemic, and the youth they want to feel that connection and have that connection. So it's tough when everything changes so much is virtual and this and that, and you can't have
Mm-hmm.
that human to human connection all the time. So what's one of the biggest challenges or some of the challenges you faced in the last, I guess, year now, with your coaching and mentoring and during this pandemic?
I mean, with me being as hands on as I am and up in your face and being very matter of fact and direct, you know, sometimes you can't get the same personable feel from a virtual standpoint, right?
Hmm.
And with our kids, um, you know, spread out throughout the city in many ways, we were limited in our opportunities to get together. I mean, even for us now, like we haven't been able to use our weight room in a one full year, right? So you have to come into a season where you have minimum weight, you have no weight room for an entire year, and then you're asked to go out there and be successful. With the time we had to start this year, by the time we got all the kids in the locker room and had their equipment and stuff on, it's daylight savings time, right? The season started in October for us this year, so daylight savings time hit. It's 5 o'clock. You can't do anything but practice run game and run defense. You know, we didn't have any lights. We had to get some portable lights, and then even still, they only on one layer of the field. People would say it doesn't really affect you, but it affects every layer of your preparation because you can't even work on the kicking game because it's dark outside. So you have to do it all without a ball, and you know just kind of work through it. But you lose a lot of that repetition, man. You know, so the limitations with resources, like we never make any excuses. You know what I'm saying? We peel back layer by layer, and you know we go out there and we give it everything that we got. So again, it is my greatest goal, my greatest passion to put myself in a position where I can upgrade the facilities at Woodrow Wilson High School so that the student athletes and the kids there, you know, be a part of the best and the brightest. and I feel like they deserve it. The day I got the job, I talked to the folks who were in charge at the time, asked them, what needs to be done, who I got to talk to, where we got to send the sponsor letters at, what fundraisers we need to put in place. And I'll still stand committed to that for forever, because I feel like it's well deserved.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I love that, man. It's just that having that goal and that dream for the youth, man, and kind of seeing that success that a lot of times they can't see because of their
Yeah.
surroundings or just their environment. So of course in the title and just to bring the point home, man, like in your opinion, coach, how do you think we can make, and again, like I in the flyer and talking about this for coaches, mentors, teachers, advisors, anyone who deals with the youth and the youth themselves. How do you feel we can make the greatest impact in the lives of our youth today? Not only just now dealing with the pandemic, but just moving forward in general. How do you think we can make the greatest impact in the lives of our youth?
I think the very first thing is you got to take yourself out of the equation and identify with the kids and figure out what makes them go. Like, what gives them the energy to thrive and be successful, right? And it could have nothing to do with sports. It could have nothing to do with, uh, but something motivates us all, right? Nobody wakes up every day and says like, "Hey, I want to be unsuccessful," right? I want to be lazy. Even when we're tired, we still think in our minds like we stress because we want to be successful, like beyond measures, right? So if we take ourselves out of the equation, right, and just talk to young people, start small, right? You don't have to talk to 50, 60 kids, right? We all interact with young people, even in our own families, right? Start there and figure out how you can reach them, because peer to peer, kids can pull in other kids way faster than adults can, uh, because peer pressure is just it, right? So the one thing I always, this like I wrote down like many moons ago, was that if we could overwhelm kids' lives with what they do in the community, what they do academically, right? Just putting different academic pieces in play, uh, keeping them engaged in community service, and then just taking them out of their regular environment and showing them what real love and compassion looks like. Playing the sport would be super easy, but they wouldn't have enough time to focus on negative things. And that kind of stuff, like, just builds and gravitates, right? We tell guys all the time, right? That extra, if you stay after practice and do extra, right? You start running 10 extra sprints every day, just you. By Wednesday, by the next practice, somebody else, somebody else on the team will just join you. They won't ask, they'll join you. And the day you don't want to do it, you'll see them same cats that join because you did it. They'll That energy will force you back out there to do it. You'll never want to not do it. All the guys that play for us will attest. And so how did I start doing that? I just started being the first one to run the sprints. When practice was over and we blow the whistle and break it down, I start running the sprints. Right? As the leader of
Nice.
the team, I start running the sprints. Right? And so I gotta earn my keep. I gotta earn my stripe every single day. I can't show up and give less than 100%. So I wouldn't ask the kids to do anything less. Right? So if there's a drill that needs to be explained, like, I'm gonna do it 100% to fully demonstrate what I want the outcome to look like, right? And as long as God is blessing me with the energy and the ability to do it, I'm gonna do it in just that way, right? As an educator, as a teacher, you have to model the behavior that you want to see. You have to model what you want the outcome to be. If you don't, have clear instructions and clear demonstrations, kids could be confused, right? And so that would be the advice that I would give to anybody that's looking to make changes, right? Eliminate yourself out of the equation, right? Try to understand the way the kids think and overwhelm their lives with positive things.
I love that, man. And it, it just, man, that resonated with me, just eliminate yourself first, because I think a lot of times too, we approach our youth and we work with our youth and expect them to respond or do as we would do if we
Mm-hmm.
were that age or if we were in that situation. Again, if we've been through anything, we're like, we can sometimes look at our youth and say, man, listen, either myself, I know people going through way worse and they're doing this or performing this way, but eliminate yourself, man. I really felt that when you said that, man. I love that. I think that's great advice. And what I wrote it down too when you said figuring out what drives a
Yeah.
person, to, because that's huge as well. Because that's another, I think, mistake sometimes in working with the youth is that we want to connect with them on what drives us instead of what drives them. And, it doesn't resonate or you don't get that response. So I love that, man. Man, if there any questions or comments, I see comments come in, but I don't know we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Any questions or comments from anyone watching, man? Because, bro, I just appreciate you, man, for the time to really just talk about this again. Just some things that the biggest thing I wanted for the youth that is watching or will watch this, definitely going to share it out, is for them to see that everybody has a story, because that's the
Yes.
thing. Even as adults, right? A lot of times we think that we're the only ones that has gone through or is going through a
Mm-hmm.
certain thing, and so everybody has a story. Everybody has something that could be the end of them, like I quit,
Yeah.
this right here is too much,
Mm-hmm.
and we both talked about kind of loss in our family, and different things, but it's like, okay, what's going to get you
Yeah.
past that point, or what drives you enough to say, listen, let me tell you my story. if you
I can
really
tell
want to
you
know
this,
how I
man.
got here.
The one thing uh, I try to prepare my high school athletes for is when they get to college, right? So me and my boys used to call it. We still call it the 11th hour. So the 11th hour happens when you're in college, right? What is the 11th hour? The 11th hour is when the alarm clock goes off at quarter to 5 a.m. and you got to get up and be over there for workouts for the 5:15 group, and you hit snooze, and you're really struggling and contemplating whether or not you really want to do this. The 11th hour happens when you got to do study hall hours and you got to write a paper, and everybody else is going to hang out, and you got to make a choice and decision, right? The 11th hour happens when your position coach is chewing you out because it's something you did in practice. Then you got to go to study hall and night class and then recycle the whole thing all over again. And you need somebody that you could connect with that understands that 11th hour, because it's real, right? It's really real. If anybody goes off to school and tells you that they never met the 11th hour, they're lying. Trust me, bro. I know I felt it when I was not a starter, when I was a full time starter. Everybody I know, I talk like, you can't, like, yo, this is too much. I can't do it. They're getting on my nerves, like all that kind of stuff. And so you have to talk to the kids about when you take that next step. Most of you are going to be in environments that don't look like the ones you came from. So you're going to see the 11th hour many more times over than somebody else who came from an environment that's similar. So if you come from Camden, New Jersey, and you go to a predominantly white institution, which most of them are, you're going to be in an environment that doesn't look like the one that you came from, and you're going to be living with people that don't necessarily look like the people that you grew up around. So you're going to have to adjust in many different layers and forms. And if you're not mentally prepared for that, it could drive you in a negative direction. It could make a perfect situation feel like it's horrible, right? Like you misunderstood. The one thing I would always push, I push even on this right now. College, the NCAA should make it mandatory for student athletes to meet with sports psychologists, um, monthly, just to be able to get out what's on their mind, be able to voice it, so that they don't keep it bottled up for semesters and semesters, and then they lash out, and then things happen, and then people look on social media and they call a kid a bad kid. And so, that's just one thing. Like, I try to stress all the things that I know outside of football that they're going to see, that they're going to come across, right? I experience every level of racism being a student athlete at Tulane, right? The campus police, they'd always stop us, like on the side streets, pull us over, make us show student ID. Professors made me rewrite papers and choose different topics because they didn't think I wrote the paper on my own, right? It's crazy. I helped it. I helped the kicker on my team with some of his paper, and he forgot to cite it in his anthropology paper. Now, I turned my paper in 2 days before his, and they told me that I copied his paper and I had to rewrite it and choose another topic, and then I had to do it in front of a teacher's aide. Like, I was 19 years old, and I'm like, wait, you kidding me? And everybody wanted me to stay quiet. No, I didn't stay quiet. I went to the Office of Multicultural Affairs. Like, I protested the whole thing because, it was ridiculous, right? Had I not been a black student athlete, that wouldn't have happened. Now, obviously, he was a white kicker, and they would never have believed unless if he didn't tell them, they would have thought, like, I would have had to go in front of a hearing for potential plagiarism. And I'm like, what I need to plagiarize for? But again, like, I experienced all those things. And so, I tell young people that don't think that it can't happen to you, regardless of how, you got to always protect yourself. You got to always prepare your mind. You got to always prepare for things that you don't know. Most people think it's just, play football, catch, run, get a scholarship, and go to college. Like, off to the races. You're on your own. You're a man now. No, you're not. You're not.
Man, I love that. I definitely got to reshare this to all the young men that I work with, because I think, of course, we were all at the stage when we were young, high school athletes, where we thought, we were the stuff, and it was, you was going to go all the way, at certain times where there was no option outside of going all the way or making it all the way. And so sometimes that kind of cockiness can lead to different decisions in your life that you'll have to later face that, and realize. So I think that's huge, man. Coach, man, I definitely, man, I appreciate you for taking the time out to do this, man, and just really share kind of your journey, and hopefully some gems that will be picked up from not only the youth, but people who work with the youth, and just that approach. Because a lot of the things that you said, man, in even how we connect with the youth, it was huge when you talked about just, removing yourself out of the picture, man, and just really making a genuine connection, man. So I think that's big. Thank you to everybody who watched the live, and everybody that'll watch the replay. It'll be on YouTube and Facebook. And man, I can't wait to see more stuff, man. I'm a fan now. I watched that. I watched the documentary, man, and I was like, I got to keep up with Woodrow Wilson, man, out of Camden, New Jersey, man, because again, like I said, seeing those young men, and the way they carried themselves, and the way Coach talked about you, and just your story. Um, it's just amazing. So anything that can inspire, man, and inspire future generations is huge, man. So I definitely appreciate it, man. I'm sure this won't be the last time we connect on some awesome things, man. But I appreciate you, brother. Anything you want to lead the people with, man. Any how they can find out more. I'm definitely going to share out the video again, but how they can find out more about what you have going on.
Well, man, I definitely appreciate you, man. I know you're doing great things down there in the Ham. And whenever I get opportunity to get back down there, through Alabama, man, I definitely make sure we connect. I'm just committed to the uplift, man. Um, you can find me on Twitter, pgray81, Instagram, pgray81. I don't I'm all about action, right? So Coach Preston, I believe in verbs, right? I'm a verbs guy. Kids will
Love
tell
it.
you all the time, right? They usually say like, man, what you learn in school, you won't ever use in life. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Everything I learned as a student, right? I took school very seriously, all the time. Everything you learn, you're gonna use it in some form of fashion, right? So again, I tell people all the time, like, hey, I'm a verbs guy, right? Define a verb, right? And so when they do it, I'm like, okay, I'm looking for committable actions, like
Mm,
consistently, right? And we talk about physics all the time, right? Because in physics, they talk about force, right? Which is mass times acceleration. Acceleration is the change in speed over the change in time. So I tell people, okay, you're the mass, right? Now, how are you going to change from this form of yourself in your freshman year to this form of yourself in your senior year? And what force are you going to put into the world, right? And I learned that in physics class. You know what I'm saying? In 11th grade, in Dr. Williams' honors physics class, which also allowed me to go to Tulane and opt out of physics 1 and go right into physics 2. But they told
nice.
me that my education in Camden was inferior, but it wasn't. It's all about how you apply yourself, right? And this is what I'm saying. Like, what you apply in this world is what you're going to give. I didn't have my song and dance as an athlete. I don't have anything to gain from it. So I want every kid that I come across to experience what my mom experienced and their families, where my mom had 3 sons go to on full scholarships to college, and we grew up in the projects. She never made more than like $10 an hour, but she didn't have to pay for college. And so the feeling, the joy that she had, knowing that we were afforded those opportunities, I want people to feel that. I want families to feel that, right? Because that's a feeling that'll stick with you for forever. You know what I mean? I want people to feel that, that kind of fulfillment where it give you chills down your spine. You know what I mean? Where you so embedded into something like man, like what would my life be if I didn't have this, right? And that's the kind of environment that I wanted to create, where you could always come back. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that when I originally came back, that people didn't want me. I tell this story every year, right? I said to the kids, hey, you ever heard the story about Jesus the Christ? And they're like, what? Where you going with this? Right? So here it is. Jesus came back to the city, right? They screamed, Hosanna, Hosanna, we love you, we love you. And then the next week, they said, crucify him. The same people that scream, we love you, thank you so much for healing us and helping us, were the same people that said crucify. You know what I'm saying? So my mom always said, like, look, they hated Jesus, so they'll do anything to people. They'll do anything to humans, right? They hated Jesus, they crucified him. So I tell people, give the world everything you got for as long as you can and hold nothing back. So wherever you are, Give the world everything you got, every second that you can, and don't ever hold back.
Love it, man. I was sitting here smiling as you were talking because you talked about just the challenges of being a young black athlete, going to Tulane, being so far away from home, and really that is really judgment, right? But I even think about where going back to your fifth grade years and always making these good grades, and here you talk about physics and science and all this, and
Mm-hmm.
it just made me smile because I'm like, this is why I do it, for the youth to see that you have a young black business owner and a young successful coach that's had the background that neither one of us, or you didn't let it slow you down, or let these speed bumps and these hurdles stop you to where you are today. And so it just brought a smile to my face as you were saying that, man, talking about physics and as my bro Kirk pointed out, committed to the uplift. I love that, man. So man, I appreciate you, man. If there's no questions or comments, we gonna end this right around 1:15, man. I appreciate it, man. Definitely. Again, I'll post in the comments once the video ends, the documentary from NFL Film, so y'all can check it out, man. And definitely, I want people to stay up with what you have going on, because there are people. I say often, man, when I'm talking to my wife, that a lot of times we don't see. They won't show you the things that are going on in these places. If we think of Camden, New Jersey, Chicago, Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
Oakland, the Bay, these places, they don't show you the good because they want you to continue to focus on all the bad. But there's some good out here being done, man. The communities from awesome people like yourself, Coach. So again, man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for the time and for just having this impactful conversation with me, bro.
Hey man, impact is everything, man. And you never know your impact on folks unless you talk to them and you ask them, man. I appreciate you. Thank you, Coach Mike. Thank my city, Camden, New Jersey, for everything that it's given me. All the pride is instilled in me from now. Rest in peace. Thank you to my wife and my children, my family, all the coaches, all the kids that have ever bought into anything that we're trying to do. Thank you for the people that give me opportunities to be a coach, and all the families that invested time and to being a part of our journey so far. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely thank you everybody for watching, man. And y'all have a good evening, and we'll see y'all soon. Peace.
Peace.